Welcome everyone to the Awful Takes podcast. This is a show where we talk about movies, music, and my opinion is not worth anything. So I quantify everything in what I say as an awful take. So yeah, welcome. Thank you guys for joining us, whether you're on YouTube or Spotify. There's going to be timestamps below, so if you want to skip around to a certain part of the video, by all means do so. My name is Dabahi, and I'm joined by...
Hello, I'm Wallied from Sergata Productions, but that's not all. We also have someone else joining us today. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Dylan. Just Dylan.
We have a guest today, and it's not going to fall in our normal episode type release schedule, so we're going to treat this kind of as like a bonus episode. Dylan is a friend I have had for, I would say, about 4 years now.
I think it's been a little longer.
Yeah, it might have been a little longer. Basically, I got a second job at Starbucks, and I had started working there, and I felt distant with a lot of people. Obviously, I was older than most of the people there. So I didn't really feel as comfortable going into it. I was more connected with people who worked in the morning, and I started working in the evening, and Dylan was there, and we had a very interesting first reaction. I won't get into it too much, but to keep it short, Dylan came on pretty strong. However, there was a short moment after that. I'd say it was probably like a couple weeks later. We were just working, taking orders on the headset, and Dylan actually quoted Spider-Man 3, Sam Raimi's Spider-Man 3, and I don't know why. I just started laughing. I thought it was so funny. It's like one of my favorite movies.
Yeah, go get me some.
Yeah. And from that moment on, like, we just started talking and joking around about movies and quotes and things like that. And Dylan is someone who's a lot like me. Like, you just say quotes randomly as they pertain.
I'm like, hey, what's this from?
As it pertains to the situation. So yeah, I always wanted him on as a guest because he's someone that I could talk about with movies, and literally 4 hours can go by, and I'm just like, that's kind of insane. So welcome.
Thank you. I'm very excited.
Welcome
I listen
aboard.
to guys' podcast every day.
Nice.
So I'm very excited.
Awesome.
I'm genuinely like really hyped.
We are so excited to have you. I guess to start off, similar to some of our other guests, we told Dylan to recommend a movie to us. So we'll get into that in a little bit. But I guess what I want to just start is like a icebreaker type situation. What are some of your favorite movies or shows of all time, I guess?
Movies, I think I'm gonna have to go with Martin Scorsese's Goodfellas.
Ooh, that's
Nice.
a good one.
Up there. I'm not gonna rank them in order because I'm gonna dive too deep and have an existential crisis in a second. Christopher Nolan's Interstellar, man.
That's great.
I have the solar system tattooed on me. I love that movie. It's phenomenal. The Green Mile
That's a
is
good one.
also
I didn't see
fantastic.
it. Heard
Shawshank
so much
Redemption.
about it.
So good. You might have seen this movie. I don't think you've seen it. It's called Moonrise Kingdom.
Oh, Wes Anderson. Yeah,
Wes
that's a really
Anderson.
good one.
Dude, that movie is...
Damn, I'm missing out.
Oh my gosh. And then the one I recommended today, man. This movie it holds so much meaning to me, like emotionally and in every way. It's so good. So,
I'm so excited. I guess, do you have any, obviously, I don't want to get too much into your personal life, but I do know you as someone who's very musically inclined.
oh yeah.
I guess when you're watching movies, is that something that you kind of will key into? Is like music and stuff?
100%. While we're talking, we were talking about Your Name. I'm thinking about specific scenes, and I can hear the songs. That's why I was getting chills. I was like, I kept telling you, I'm getting chills right now. This is crazy. And the score matters.
Yeah.
It like 100% does. Like for instance, in Pulp Fiction, man, their entire soundtrack, whoever picked that out needs something besides money. Something physical. Okay.
It's so good. But
I think it really depends. Like, there's some scores, like in Prometheus. I know you don't jive with.
I like the little theme. I like the
But dude,
motif.
that score, man,
Yeah.
is so beautiful. And in this movie that we're talking about today,
Oh yeah.
the fact that I'll get into it further,
Yeah.
in a little bit, but that they're like coming up with it on the spot in the movie and like hearing it and how complex it is, and you're just like, wow, like I can't believe they're thinking of this. I can't believe this is playing out the way it's going, and it's
Wow.
just so beautiful. So yes, it matters to me, and I think that it can make or break the film.
When did your interest with movies kind of start? Do you have like a specific moment that you can recollect of seeing
Yes.
a movie?
Yes, there's two. Both times I was 4. Okay.
Damn.
Wow. I'm not joking. I had watched Castaway for the first time.
Oh shit.
And listen, for a 4-year-old, okay, that's not like kids want to watch cartoons. They want to play with shit. No normal child's gonna sit there and watch this movie where nothing is happening, essentially. But as a kid, man, I was so involved in this dude's relationship with himself and like his environment and the volleyball dude, Wilson.
Yeah.
He's like having a hard time. He's there for 4 years. Like he's barely he's not civilized anymore. It just shows in the movie at the end where he's like laying on the floor in the hotel. Like he doesn't know anything anymore. And then at the second movie, which caused a lifelong fear, it's permanent, it's not going anywhere, is the birds.
Oh shit.
I am terrified of birds now. I can't ever. Those stupid lovebirds, man. 4-year-old me, dude. Every time I walk by a bird, dude, I'm like freaking out. I dated this one girl, and she had birds, and she put one on my shoulder one time, and I like started crying.
Here, I'll get this off.
I started crying, dude. I couldn't handle it. I couldn't
Wow.
handle it.
Okay. And did you notice from like then on? I don't know. When I was a kid, like watching movies, it's very much like you don't know yet, like how movies are created and how they were. Like I'll be straight up. Like when I saw Jurassic Park, I thought it was real. Like I was like, dinosaurs
This is gonna happen to
exist
me.
on some island, you know. I guess when did your like interest kind of evolve into knowing more like background stuff on movies and how they're made?
So I always asked my dad, and I was the same thing.
Yeah.
Very young age, if it was based on a true story, because I liked documentaries as a kid, like a lot. I liked March of the Penguins and stuff like that.
Oh wow.
So I always asked about that, and we'd always watch like the behind the scenes after movies. So I think it's just kind of always been there that I like to see how they're created. I like to see all the stuff. Granted, I don't know too much about film and like what goes into it, but it's always been an interest and things that I really enjoy.
So for you, it's like more on like a connection to the story and everything, and how it's presented.
I think it's a big emotional tie.
Okay.
Like I think that if the emotion isn't there, then I'm not. You know? So I think it really just depends on the movie and all the stuff that's happening with it. If it doesn't catch me within the first like 30 minutes, like this person, like I don't have a relationship with them, I'm just like, all right, then
It's not.
I don't really care anymore.
Wow. Okay.
But yeah, no, I don't really know what goes on behind like the camera and like what that kind of work that is. And I know there's a lot of people on set and a lot of people that are writing and stuff, and I'm sure it's tough.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sure it's really hard work. So props to them, because I love what they do. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
Did you have any questions you wanted to ask Dylan or anything, Wallied?
Yeah, I think it's just really awesome to hear somebody who's like passionate about music and film, because I feel like for me, one thing I try to talk about as much on the podcast is music and sound design. So I try, it's nice to hear someone who is passionate about music, because I feel like for me, a lot of like the music choices in a film, regardless if it's like licensed music or like just even score, can take me out or can like immerse me even more in a film. And I feel like for me, it is just such an underappreciated aspect of filmmaking and everything. So
see, me and my brother, we're both musicians.
Okay.
He's like the reason why I started playing like piano and guitar and stuff. He's very talented. Okay. And I remember as a kid, same thing. He has perfect pitch. He can hear a song and literally play it within the first 30 seconds.
Wow.
As a kid, I remember thinking, I was like, wow, this is beautiful. Like this man, like, dude, he's beautiful. Like, I can't believe he's doing this. And he like inspired me, like want to learn how to play and all this stuff, and getting to hear certain things in movies, and I'm just like, wow. Like, it reminds me, again, emotional tie of when I was a kid and hearing my brother play the Doogie Howser theme because he heard my mom play it.
Wow.
Like, was watching the movie or something, or hearing him play Claire de Lune because he heard it in Ocean's 11 and thought it was beautiful.
Nice.
And I was like, dude, like this guy, like, granted, he's my best friend, okay? Every time I hear certain songs, it just like brings me back to that moment. I'm like, wow, if that can do that for me, like this movie means something now. Like it has me.
Wow.
When it comes to soundtracks, it's I love all kinds of music, like from 40s and up. Like, I'm talking like Frank Sinatra, the Ink Spots, like the Mary Macs, and up.
Yeah.
So getting to hear a wide range of stuff, and you're just like, wow, like I have never heard that song ever. Like Kalijah by Hank Williams in Moonrise Kingdom. I was like, what? Like this song's in here? Holy shit.
Wow.
Dude, no way. You still haven't seen the Green Mile, Nabahi.
I know. I'm so sorry.
There's this song, it's called Heaven.
Okay.
Have you seen the Green Mile?
I haven't. It's on my watch
Oh my
list.
gosh,
I know.
guys. Listen,
We'll
it's
have you
hard.
back on. We'll
It's
have you
really
back
hard,
on.
okay?
Yeah.
It's a tough movie, but yeah, man, music 100% matters. If you're watching a movie and there's like no music in the background, you're like,
Yeah, a movie,
matters.
A movie that kind of works, I guess, would say like that is, but I kind of wish there was No Country for Old Men. There's there's no soundtrack in
You're
that
right.
movie, and I was just like, whoa, this is very like you're kind of just left with what you're seeing on screen. It's just like, oh, okay, like this is very straightforward.
you know, Prisoners also doesn't have too much music in it.
It has very like subtle stuff.
It's minimal.
But it's not like, you're right.
I feel like music for me in movies is very much similar to you. Like it ties into like, how am I feeling emotionally? You know, music has done a lot of things for me in movies, and really just kind of elevates my interests. Like for instance, I was at a yard sale recently and I purchased a piano for $10 as a keyboard. And the first thing I wanted to learn was Radwimp's Your Name. All the songs in that movie.
I learned
gotcha,
the Pizza Hut theme.
Yeah,
I can play
and
that.
I was just like that music in that movie literally pushed me to want to learn. I was like, it was so much like me being afraid of the piano because I had tried it when I was a kid.
But you play guitar, man. You got it.
I know. But like hearing Radwimp's score in that movie, like it was like, no, like I don't care my fears of playing or anything like that. I want to learn how to play that just because I think that music in that movie is amazing.
Dude, even if you're rocking a YouTube tutorial, man.
Yeah.
I think whatever works, it works for you. So good on you, man.
Yeah. And then same thing with Weathering with You. There's a lot of good piano themes and things in that movie as well. So yeah, I don't know. The music in movies, I would agree with Wallied. Sometimes it does feel a little underappreciated. Even getting like soundtrack music, that's a challenge too. Like
Having to like get the licensing for it. And all that
yeah,
stuff.
licensing and then finding like, okay,
This is gonna fit.
Does it fit
what
with the
song
movie?
already
Yeah.
written is
You know
going to pertain
who
to
does
this
great with that?
situation?
Is the Guardians of the Galaxy.
Oh, yeah.
movies, dude.
Yeah.
All of them.
We talked about Gun's selection of music. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Piss me off.
What do you say?
We have a buddy named Nate. Okay. After Guardians 3 came out, because he went to see it before I did.
Yeah.
Right? He was like, "Gosh, dude, that soundtrack sucked," and I was like, "It can't be that bad." And I go and watch it. The minute I got in my car, I called him. I was like, "Are you fucking stupid?" I was like, "Dude, are you serious right now?" I was like, "This is one of the best soundtracks I've heard from them." Like, dude,
I really think it has one of like the best ending selection. Doing obviously Florence and the Machine.
dude, Florence.
Oh
the
my
dog
god, I was
days.
getting emotional.
I
just
have chills
listening
right
to that.
now, dude.
Yeah, like I was watching that and I'd never heard this song before, and I was like, "This is so
Dude,
good."
If I'm being honest with you guys, because I know that when you first watched Inside Out, you said you cried like a baby.
Yeah.
Okay. When I first watched Guardians 3, I watched it twice in theaters.
Yeah.
Both times, dude. I was on a date with with a girl, and I shouldn't have been on that date. Okay, it doesn't matter. All right. But dude, I was sobbing like so hard. Like I'm talking crying. I told her it wasn't a date. Okay.
Yeah.
But she said it was. And she was like, "Hey man, you okay?" And I was like, "No, I'm not." And then same thing with my brother and my dad. I went and watched it again. And my dad, like, he's tearing up. He's just like, oh, wow, that was good. He's tearing up because he's happy.
Yeah.
I'm tearing up. I'm like fucking sobbing like a
Yeah.
child. I'm like, this is the worst. This is the worst.
It really was like
So good, dude.
so cathartic.
So good.
Yeah. And especially, I think, I don't want to get too much into it, but the underappreciated thing I feel like with Marvel is like growing with those characters.
Oh, yeah.
Because that started in 2014 when the first Guardians came out. Like, I was just barely out of high school.
Yeah.
And then to watch over the next 10 years them change and go through this journey, it really is unlike anything else in movies. Like, having that time span and just knowing you're at the end of it is like, oh, damn, this is kind of sad.
Dude, there's one quote at the end of that movie that will forever hurt my heart. Like, forever. It's between him and Gamora. They're like sitting next to each other. And she's like, I bet we were fun, weren't we?
That's
and he's
a
like,
good line.
you wouldn't believe. And I'm like, dude.
That was so good.
No,
was
don't
really
say
good.
that. Don't do that to me. Don't say that again.
All right. Dylan, you recommended to us a movie. Do you want to give it a little intro and tell us what we're going to be talking about?
I do. I recommended Her. It's by Spike Jonze.
And it came out 2013.
13.
Damn.
Which
It's
is
been 11
crazy.
years. And starring Joaquin Phoenix, Scarlett Johansson, and Spike Jonze. Amy Adams. Amy Adams is in it as well. There's a couple people that I don't really.
Chris
Mara.
Pratt's in it.
What do you say?
Chris Pratt's in it.
Yeah, Chris Pratt. I totally forgot Chris Pratt.
Rooney Mara as well.
And Rooney Mara.
Yeah, you're
Mara.
right. Yeah. I just watched it yesterday. What talking about? Anyway, Chris Pratt's in it. And he's still funny in it. It's
Which
still
is
funny.
really funny.
Anyway, Wallied has seen it beforehand. Nabahi is the only one who hasn't seen
I
it,
haven't seen it, yeah.
and I want to know what you thought, man, because it's uncomfortable first time watching it.
So while watching it, I guess to set up a little bit of what it's about, basically you have a main character named Theodore, and he has gone through a recent change in his life. They don't really show the full context of everything, which I feel like really helped it. He was in a relationship, things didn't work out, and he's kind of navigating the path after, a breakup, which can be hard for many, many people. It is a very difficult situation. And basically what ends up happening is he ends up purchasing an AI, basically like an operating system to help him through the day-to-day stuff.
Like have a companion.
Yeah. And towards the beginning, you start to realize, like, okay, this AI is a little bit more compatible with this guy. It's not just she's helping him out. They start to develop a real bond and relationship. And it goes through that whole question of, what in our future is going to happen when we search for companionship in unlikely places, I guess.
Yeah.
And throughout the movie, like, they do such a good job of showing it, but also not showing too much. A lot of the things I really appreciated about this movie, number one for me was the set design. Absolutely amazing.
Yeah. Yes.
The way everything looks in this movie is like, it really is like a work of art. And the cameras they shot it with, I don't know why this movie to me just had such a pleasing aesthetic to it. Yet it feels like, okay, this is obviously has to be set in like the future. And they don't go too far with it, It's not really like,
It's practical.
yeah, it's not something that you would see in like, a Blade Runner or, those types of sci-fi movies. It feels a lot more like grounded, yet while watching it, you are just noticing things in the background looking futuristic. It never is like the main draw of what you're watching, but you can just appreciate that it's there.
It's right around the corner.
Yeah. I will say, just first time viewing, I really did enjoy this movie a lot. It really surprised me in many, many places. It goes for things that I was not expecting. It has a lot of subtlety to it too, but I feel like the subtlety really works and is effective compared to some of the other movies I've seen where I feel like maybe they didn't show enough.
Yeah.
For this movie, I really felt like that was perfect. Like,
Yeah.
it didn't overstay its welcome. It didn't delve too far in things that weren't worth expanding on.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I just really enjoyed this movie. Obviously, the performances, the music, the directing, everything for me just really worked on such a good level.
Yeah.
It's kind of scary to think that now that AI, like this
Again, it's
movie was
right around
10
the corner,
years ago,
man.
and now we're hearing about all this, and AI is becoming, kind of synonymous with day-to-day life. Where are we going to go next? When does something like this happen?
It's approaching.
So yeah, that was overall my first time watching my opinions, I guess.
Okay. Wallied.
So yeah, I saw this film a couple years ago in college, and it was around the time I got really obsessed with Spike Jonze and Charlie Kaufman. And this one, like watching it like for the first time, it was like just very bizarre. I was like, wait, what is this? And it's like the more I was like thinking about it, it's like, man, it really is like ahead of its time in like every sense of the word. And also kind of oddly nostalgic too. It has this kind of hazy feeling, like this. There's like a haze to a lot of the shot composition in the film that I really loved a lot. And one thing also that I really appreciate and love about it, rewatching it now, is that and I'm assuming Spike Jonze learned this from working on Being John Malkovich and adaptation, is that he is able to take these high concepts and concepts that maybe on paper could be a little hard to like adapt on screen, but he finds a way to ground them and like put them in like a realistic setting of like, what if this were to be like real life? Like how would people react in a situation where you did have like an operating system that is super advanced, and you were like, I guess you could say, heartbroken around like this kind of like futuristic setting that I really love and enjoy so much about the film, and is kind of a bit hard to get through because it does hit really hard.
Oh yeah.
Personally, the dialogue in this film I think is
phenomenal,
fantastic. Like there's so many quotable lines in this film that it's like just not even funny. One of my favorites is where he's talking about how all he does is do video games and internet porn, and he's all. And she tells him, I'd be laughing if that weren't true. And that's the thing, too, is like, even though it is a bit more depressing, there's still a lot of lighthearted moments, and there's still a lot of humor, too, in the film, through the relationship with Samantha, through the relationship he has with his friends. It all plays a part in some way, shape, or form that I really loved a lot.
Great. That makes me happy.
Yeah.
Like, genuinely.
So when you were first going to go see it, obviously this was close to 11 years ago. What was your interest when, you were hearing about it? Who recommended it?
So I actually hadn't seen this movie until like 4 years ago.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Wow.
Well, I was rocking 18. All right. I wish I'd seen it in the theaters. I would kill.
Yeah.
In the theaters. But I remember the first time I was watching it because it kept popping up. Just like kept popping up. I kept seeing like clips on Instagram or something. I was just like, okay, I'm gonna give this movie a shot. And I remember first starting it, I was just like, okay, like he's writing this letter. Like he's talking to this computer, he's writing this letter out for this guy named Chris, And I was just like, okay, like he works at this place, starting to get understanding. And then obviously like you can visibly see that where he's going when he's walking through the city, these shots, that it's dark. Like you can tell the way the guy is feeling because they're showing it in color. Granted, yeah, it's written all over his face, but they're also showing it like there's a dark color to it.
Yeah.
Where you're just like, oh wow, this is kind of depressing, but comforting, like you guys are talking about, because that can become comforting. And we're watching this movie, and you're just like, wow, like I want to see where this goes, like because they're playing really heavy into the color, and you can tell that this guy he's obviously going through a divorce. It's been a year-long process. He's having a hard time. And he's looking for outlets, whether it's like a chat room that he's having online or something. But when he buys this OS, you can see the colors start changing a little bit.
Yeah.
It starts getting a little bit brighter. And you're like, oh, okay. and his shirt starts getting brighter, and everything that's happening throughout the movie just gets more colorful, and then it starts declining again, and you're like, wow, like there's such a drastic part in each scene. Like when they're fighting or something, it goes back to dark, where he's going back into that place where he shouldn't be.
Yeah.
And it gets bright again, and then at the end, it's just the color part hooked me almost instantly, where I was like, wow, like I was not expecting this in the first 10 minutes of the movie. But I hadn't heard too much about the movie. Sorry to trail off. I hadn't heard too much about it, but upon the first 3 minutes, I was like, okay, I'm uncomfortable. Like this dude, this dude is doing a really good job of making me uncomfortable. Like, but I'm not unintrigued.
Yeah.
Like they have piqued my interest. I want to see where this is going. And I got more uncomfortable. I was like, wow, this is not what I was wanting. But at the same time, that uncomfortableness, you start to like you said, you have these questions of, man, is this okay? Like, should they really be doing this?
Yeah.
Like, this guy's kind of weird. And then you start realizing that other people are also tagging on in this. And you're just like, wow, this movie's getting really beautiful. Like their relationship, you're not expecting this stuff. And it just gets to a point emotionally where you're like, wow, this is heartbreaking, but like in the most beautiful way.
Yeah, I love that you get to see like both sides. Like you get to see the good and bad of a relationship like this, you know. You see how at first it's like it's not too bad, you know, because it's like it's an operating system and it's like
and he forgets
she's
at times
learning
too.
Yeah, exactly. Also, and then it's like that reveal at the end, which is really just crushing. I won't get too into it, but like when she basically says that she's talking to like 600 other guys, it's like you kind of see he's really not that special in like the grand scheme of like being with like an AI almost. And again, it just kind of shows you like in the internet age, it's just like how you almost just can't even really trust the technology that you have. And at first when I did see it, I did think it was kind of weird that it was like a relationship like that. But the more I thought about it, and it's on a more extreme level, but I love, honestly, kind of when we think about it, we do have a relationship with our phones, with our laptops, with our TVs even, sure. You know, we kind of have a bond almost with like the technology that we have and that surrounds us almost, you know. It's just kind of more on a more intimate, personal level, I would say.
That makes sense.
One of the things that I appreciate this movie for doing is taking such a complex human emotion, yet trying to explain it through, you know, a science fiction type story. It's something that I think is really smart and it's really underappreciated because obviously the complexities of being in a relationship and reaching that point of divorce or breakup, it's hard to explain to anyone. It's hard to get them to see your point of view, yet taking that and putting it through the lens of it's an AI, maybe you can't understand the complexities of love and things like that, but you can understand how an AI works. You can understand that it needs updates. It's going to go through changing. It's never going to really reach, its final form. It's always going to be evolving. And that's such an interesting, beautiful way to explain like, it's the same with people.
Exactly.
You know? People in relationships, they change, they grow. They're at no point are you ever going to be in your life like this is it. I'm here now. This is the part where I feel like I'm done changing. You're always going to go through those changes, and I feel like people who don't know that stuff yet, this movie would do a very good job of explaining that to them. And not to mention, I don't know. This is probably like one of the best breakup movies I've seen. And it's so funny because it's like it is AI. It is this operating system. Yet I don't know. You feel more like vulnerable to it. I guess
it feels more normal, surprisingly, considering just kind of how absurd the whole thing is. It feels just.
It was like halfway through where I was like, I'm not really like questioning as much as when I first
Yeah,
watched,
exactly.
you know, when you're first watching it, it's like you get accustomed to it, you
Yeah.
know.
Do you guys want to talk about like what happens like in the movie?
Yeah, so obviously through the changes of everything and this relationship, when it starts, they show that he had this past relationship. Yet they don't show any dialogue. They don't, you
Except
know,
for that one, I'm gonna fucking kill you part.
yeah,
That's it. Yeah.
they don't really have like any drawn out sequences, but in such a short amount of time, you feel the genuine side of that relationship, and you buy it. It's like, whoa,
Yeah.
this clearly was hard for him to go through.
And I
Yeah.
think it's perfect to show it in a montage too, because it's almost like him running through those memories over and
Yeah.
over again also. So
Yeah.
I thought that was like a really tastefully done way to portray that like past relationship.
Yeah,
Not only that, but like they don't show just the good parts.
Mm-hmm.
He like it shows another montage of him and her arguing, and like them, you can visibly see them
feel it.
getting distant and growing apart, and they're both having a hard time. Granted, it's centered on Theodore, but you can even see it in her face that she doesn't want this either.
Yeah.
Like they both are having a hard time, but they can't help it with the way that their lives are changing.
Yeah,
You know, I think it was really cool that they got to show both sides of that.
yeah,
And like you guys were talking about with the questioning part, I agree. Like about halfway through, you stop questioning their relationship because you're like, at the beginning, you're like, is it part of her programming? Like it has to be. Like she can't.
Yeah.
This can't be real. Like, but then you start realizing, like, no, like she's not alive, but she is. You know,
Yeah.
she's learning.
He's getting into like the human experience.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I want to point out one thing that I didn't notice until yesterday within the movie. The actress, Amy Adams, I don't remember her name in the movie, but she's talking to him about the OS. And because, you know, he's trying to figure out how to bring up this relationship that he's in. And she tells him that one of her coworkers is hitting on another OS. You know, like they're like starting a relationship with somebody else's OS, which plays very heavy into the ending. It's like a really good foreshadowing where you're just like, oh, I didn't really,
yeah.
I didn't really look at it like that. Like, and then you hear it and you're like, oh shit, like I didn't realize that was gonna happen. Sorry, continue.
Yeah, no, it's true because it's like at first when I saw it, I was like, oh, okay, so it's just like again, like I was talking about earlier, like putting this in a real life situation. Somebody probably would have an affair with an OS, but now it's like, but yeah, that is really true though. That is actually a really awesome foreshadowing detail I didn't pick up on. So
I liked they use a lot in like, you know, the background and parts where he's walking around. You see other people walking around,
Yeah.
and they have those pieces in their ear.
yeah, like an earbud.
They're laughing, things like that, and I'm just like, those shots. Granted they were short, but it really starts to make you feel okay. Maybe this is normal. Maybe this
Yeah.
is something, because obviously, anytime something's new, you're kind of seen as like the outcast of like, well, what are you doing, you know?
Yeah.
But then when he would break it to his friends, like, you know, I'm with an OS, it's almost like it didn't even phase them.
Yeah,
They were
literally
just
one of
like,
the guys was just like, great,
Yeah.
let's go out for sushi.
yeah, and I was
Yeah.
like, oh, okay, wow. I guess I'm the odd person out because I was the one who's like, this seems kind of weird.
The
you
only
know?
person who was sane in the movie was his ex-wife. She was the one asking the real question. She's like, you're in love with your fucking computer?
Yeah.
And he's like, no, it's not like that. It's just like, and it makes him question everything again. Everything right off the bat. He starts questioning. He's just like, whoa, like, I am doing this. I
Yeah.
can't handle a real relationship, as she put it. But you start realizing it was a real relationship. They had something. One of the parts that I really enjoyed was he goes on this date. Okay. So throughout the movie, again, we're learning that he is going through a lot of stuff. He has people who are there for him, but he still feels lonely, like 100%. He has this operating system. Her name's Samantha. They get really close. They become friends. They're friends before a relationship. So he gets an email from one of his buddies. She's reading it off to him, and he keeps forgetting that she's
An
something.
operating system. Yeah.
He keeps saying like, "Oh, read the email," and she's like, "Okay," as if she's like not, you know what I mean? She's joking. She's like, "Yes, master," and
Yeah,
he's like
sarcastic,
He's like, "Oh,
yeah.
I'm sorry," like because she's there. You know what I mean? She's alive, I guess. And he gets an email from his buddy, and he's like, "Hey, I set you up on this date," and it's Olivia Wilde.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
that
it's
is a
Olivia
little
Yeah,
wild.
she's great in it.
And
Yeah.
we learn that Samantha's like, hey, you should go on this date. So she books it for him. And he goes on this date, and immediately, personally, I don't know about you guys, I am very uncomfortable. I'm like, okay, their dynamic is not
Yeah.
It's
doing
very
well with
awkward.
me. It is. And
Yeah.
Joaquin Phoenix does such a good job at playing an awkward guy.
Yeah.
And he does a really good job at making me feel not good.
Yeah.
And
No, definitely.
so they're on this date, okay, and they're talking back and forth. They're talking about like what animals they would be, and she says that he'd be a puppy dog, and that she would be a tiger, and he's like, no, I want to be a dragon and just tear you up. And you're like, oh, please don't ever say that again.
It's so cringe, but it's in like the best way possible.
You learn that this girl, she's trying to settle down, okay, and apparently. I mean, it's just showing it doesn't matter with who, as long as somebody's willing to settle down with her. So they're outside making out, and they're about to hook up, and he's not wanting to settle down. He is wanting to just have a one and done and call it good because he's lonely. And she was just like, hey, like, you're not going to just like, we're not going to sleep together, and you're not going to call me, right? Like the other guys. And you could tell he's trying to break it to her, and like, he's just trying to leave. And she calls him. She's just like, she tells him, she's like, you're a really creepy dude.
Yeah.
Like you are. And kind of is, but like not in the way that like he's a creep. It's just like their relationship, like the way that they were talking back and forth wasn't organic. You could tell it was just very forced. And it was creepy on both ends, where I was just like, they're both making me uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially because like they were just super drunk too.
Yeah.
Also, so that also kind of added more.
Yeah. And you feel bad for this guy because, you know, he didn't really do anything wrong. Like he didn't. And neither did she. But him, like her calling him that, you're just like, shoot, like I don't think that warrants being called that. Like,
Yeah.
it's kind of effed up. But at the same time, you know, like he tells Samantha later on, he's just like, I'm just horny and lonely. Like, I just wanted somebody to want me, and I wanted to want somebody because he hasn't had that for a while.
Yeah.
And this is one of my favorite parts in the movie. I'm sorry, I'm talking too much.
No, you're fine.
But it's my favorite part in the movie is somehow Samantha and Theodore, they end up sleeping together. Okay. The part that I like is it goes to black. Okay. Theodore obviously has an image of what this person would look like. Okay. But the fact that it goes to black means that we can have an interpretation of what this person would look like in our own terms. And at the end of it, they're like talking about like how they were someplace else, and you're like, wow, like they weren't there. Like they have this own image of each other. Granted, she can see him, he can't see her, and we now have this image of her that we're just like, okay, this is what I think she would look like. Obviously, we know it's Scarlett Johansson. Okay,
Yeah.
but I thought that was a really cool part that they didn't show his face like they did with the chat room thing. It went to black to show that they were somewhere else, and that it leaves into our interpretation, at least is how I took it, of what this person would be like. And even after that, it's the same thing. Like when that girl, like they hire the surrogate sexual partner, and he's not what she's not what he anticipated. So that's not what Samantha looks like to him. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. No, I didn't think of that while watching that scene the first time, but now that you're mentioning it, it makes a lot of sense. You know, that kind of is the intrigue behind, I guess, a relationship like this is you don't necessarily know what this person looks like.
Exactly. She doesn't have a body.
Yeah, you're able to make the image in your head and put a face to that voice, and you know it. But that's also the challenging part of it too. It's like,
Exactly. Yeah.
how are you ever gonna feel, you know, that it's worth doing, because you're never gonna have someone there. You know?
Exactly.
But yeah, no, that's very interesting. I didn't think about that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I really love that a lot. It's very passionate for sure, because it's almost like you can't see it almost, you know, just because it's so personal to them.
Wow.
And I love,
Thank you for that.
yeah. But I love that too, that you mentioned that the earlier scene where he's doing like the foreplay thing, and it's like, you see how his discomfort with it.
Yeah.
You see how he's
Cat thing.
not very passionate about it, which is also ahead of its time in that sense too, because Well, there's a lot of fetishes and kinks out
Yeah,
there.
dude, that
but-
was a weird part.
Yeah.
Oh, I out loud I was like, "What the hell?"
Yeah.
Don't do that again. Continue.
But yeah, no, I think it shows perfectly. Like you see his discomfort, and then it's like once he hooks up with Samantha, you see like it goes to black, but I almost see it as like it's closing the door on us because it's so passionate and personal and intimate for them that you don't get to see it, but you get to see the aftermath and the kind of awkwardness that plays in after where
Yeah, you're
like-
right. Yeah. Like a one night stand. Like,
almost like, like a somewhat one night stand type
you could
of
see
thing.
him hesitating to get on the computer and talk to her. Like, he's just like, and he finally like bucks up and does it. You're right.
Yeah.
She's like,
Yeah.
he's like, tells her, I don't know if I want to commit to anything. She's like, did I say I wanted to commit to you? And you're like, oh wow, okay, so this isn't like I feel like at that point I was just like, okay, she's not programmed for this. Like this is something that happened naturally between them.
Mm-hmm.
But I also took that saying, did I say I want to commit to you, as there could be other people.
Yeah.
Is
Yeah.
how I took it.
Oh, wow.
Again,
yeah,
it's
you're right.
another foreshadowing part that I was just like, dude. And again, I need you guys to understand, I've seen this movie like at least 15 times.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, nice.
Yesterday, when I was rewatching it, I was just like, wow, like I had my headphones in and I wasn't paying attention to visually what was happening.
Oh, cool.
I wanted to separate myself from that and listen to their dialogue. And that helped me like really see what was happening from what they're talking about, where I was just like, wow, like they are leading up to a part that you're not going to expect, because in reality, this dude paid for this operating system. He purchased it. It's his, but it's not. She quotes it at the end. I'm yours, but I'm not yours.
Yeah.
And I just got crazy chills. Wow. We'll get into that, but yeah.
I really like, wow. I really like there is a like subtext to the film that this guy pretty much lives for the validation of other people.
Yeah.
You know, and it really
He's very
pertains
insecure.
to his job, you know? Like he writes these letters and he looks for the reactions. What do people say? And it's almost like, how are you ever going to get to that point where you want to leave all that behind and start living for other people, you know, living for yourself, not really thinking or caring about what other people thinks. And it like going through that relationship, it's like, it really helps him start to get out of that.
Yeah.
And it really helps him to realize that, like, you know, what you want to do is your business. Why does it matter so much about what these people think? And, you know, it's really like he puts himself in that, you know, loneliness. He's not really helping himself by,
No, not at all.
You know, being alone and not wanting to connect with people.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I really like that throughout the whole movie. Obviously, we can get into the ending because I think for me that comes full circle. At the end, he had a meeting with his ex-wife. They're signing all the papers. That's a really good scene.
Yeah,
and
it is.
really hits really hard, and it really does feel like that. It's like, okay, you want to end things, but neither of them. It's scary. It's scary to take that final step. You can even see that she's a little bit reluctant to it, and it's just so masterfully done to where
He likes being married.
and that's how it is when those breakups happen. It's like neither of you really fully want it. It's just something that kind of ends up happening when two people kind of grow apart, you know?
Yeah.
And towards the end, after everything happens, I love the full circle moment. Okay, this is not even about anyone else anymore. He's writing a letter now from himself. It's not, he's sending it to his ex-wife, and he's done writing those letters to these people, hiding behind the guise of someone else. Now he's fully being himself, and he's apologizing for everything he's done. And it's just like, okay, he took that step finally. Now it's not about other people anymore.
Yeah.
He's fully embracing, you know, who he is and everything. And his relationship with Samantha really helped him get there.
Yeah.
When they break up, I swear, it's so weird, and it's such a genius thing. Like, if you're not buying it at that point, their whole conversation when things are ending is so genuine, and it really makes you buy into everything that you're just like, you know what? Who was I to think down upon this
Yeah.
when in the beginning, you know?
Yeah.
It's like I had such a disdain and I felt so detached watching it, and it was going in places that maybe were a little uncomfortable. But this is also an uncomfortable thing too, and now you're buying into it, and it's like, okay, now you don't really deserve to get to think that way about the beginning anymore, because you feel that this is genuine. And then they start to break up, and oh my god,
that ending quote, dude. Listen.
Oh, it's so.
On a personal note, okay, I'm going through a breakup right now.
Yeah.
Okay, listen. That ending quote,
so good.
Whoever wrote that line, dude, my hat is off to you. You're going in the know.
I know what you're talking about.
I can quote it.
I was eating like at the dinner table. My phone was on the couch, and the moment I heard that line, I had to run to my phone to write it down, because I was like, that's good. That was.
You're talking about the Now We Know How, right?
That was great. That was great.
Dude, it's so real fast. Earlier in the movie, I want to address something.
Yep.
Okay, this is before they hook up. It's like kind of right at the moment. He's telling Samantha that he feels like everything that he's ever going to feel, he's already felt. And it's going to be small doses of everything from here on out. And you start to feel that way in life. You know, things happen in life, things get harder. And like, first time it happens, you're like, oh, that sucks. Or, oh my gosh, that was great. Second time, it's like, okay, I've been through this. Like, he's right in a sense. But then a person or something comes in your life where it changes everything. And you're like, oh my gosh, I didn't know that I can feel that way.
It's
about
magical.
This person. Exactly.
Yeah.
And so to have that beginning quote and then have this final quote of how he told her, I don't think I'm going to feel this way about, like, I've never felt, what does he say?
I have it written down.
No, I'm talking about the previous one where he's just like, I think I felt everything.
Yeah.
And then when it comes full circle, like you said, to this heart-wrenching quote, it is so beautiful. Go ahead, Nabai.
So that whole conversation's happened, and they're having such a poignant moment of saying goodbye, and it really encapsulates the whole movie. Theodore says, I've never loved anyone as much as I loved you. Samantha responds, me too. Now we know how. Oh my God. Dude. The moment I heard that, I was like, that is good writing. Dude. I have to run to my phone. I have to make sure I write that down because I'm going to forget. Dude. And I don't know. It was like, damn, that's ambitious to not only do that in a romance movie, but to do it in this movie. I don't know why it hit so much harder.
Dude, 100%. Like, and I think it's also because of the scene. We're getting to see something of Samantha.
Yeah.
Again, it goes to black for a minute. It shows them in this forest. It shows Joaquin Phoenix. He's looking for her. Mm-hmm. And he sees her, but we don't see her. You know, it's for him. You get to see like a shoulder of hers or hair or something.
Yeah.
But it's him letting this person go and her letting him go. And we get to be a part of that intimate part that we didn't get to see beforehand.
Yeah. You're like an outsider in that scene almost. Yeah. And one of my favorite quotes that I wanted to mention that is like in the middle portion of the film, he's like on the train and Samantha tells him the past is just a story we tell ourselves.
One down. Oh my God. I wrote that down too. Yeah. Oh my God.
It's so good.
And again, it ties really well into what the film is saying in that it's like learning to move on and to move past the breakups, to move past the trauma that you've gone through. Yeah. And that line, I think, perfectly encapsulates that message extremely well in the film.
I like the way you guys are talking about this right now. Yeah. I like this is singing to me. This is one of my favorite movies of all time. I want to get on then we'll cut it short. Okay, I know we're kind of going long.
No, you're fine.
The music in that movie,
it's fantastic.
When they go to the beach, okay, and they're like talking about like sexual stuff. All right. Mm-hmm.
Buttholes and armpits.
Yeah, man. Buttholes.
Anyways.
And she's writing a song. Okay. Which you start to learn how complex she is and how she's doing all this stuff all at once without us even knowing it. Again, foreshadowing. She's doing all this shit. Anyway, she's writing this song. Oh man, just thinking about it, I'm like getting crazy chills. And at this point, yes, there's people all around them, but all I can see is them. Even though I can't see Samantha, obviously, but that song is so beautiful and it's so sad. And it isn't like, it's not meant to be sad, or maybe it is, whatever.
Yeah.
But I keep thinking this entire time, just like, dude, this guy's going through stuff, but she's writing such this beautiful song. And then another scene where he is out on this building and it's like dark and she's writing this song. And I cannot believe the score in that movie. I cannot believe how beautiful it was.
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
Every song fit the scene perfectly. It portrayed their emotions perfectly. It portrayed everything like I have not seen a movie do.
Yeah, it's very melancholic for sure a lot of the time. And the thing I love a lot about that beach scene too is that like it actually syncs with like the lighting. It's like you almost like see it with like, because Samantha's not there. So it's like you can almost just picture Samantha kind of playing those notes. And I really love that a lot. It's a really awesome detail I picked up on watching it the second time. And then just especially too, like during that sex scene where it goes to black. I mean, it's the music in that scene is just so intimate. It's so passionate. I love when those strings just come in.
Yeah, dude,
it's just that build up and everything is really well done. Man. And then, yeah, just that piano sequence at the end was also really great too. You know, just like the last song that they play. When Amy Adams's character, she like puts her head on Theodore's shoulder, is such a beautiful.
They're both kind of going through the same thing.
And again, it connects them together really well. You know, it's like they, through the heartbreak, through the trauma and everything, they're able to connect with each other in that way because you see throughout the film, a lot of the people don't really have a lot of that human connection. They're really just more focused with their operating system, with just. They're just very oblivious to like just the world around them, you know.
Exactly.
And you see that with those two characters. It's like they're going through it, you know. And I think the ending just shows like it's like there's a sense of hope that even though yes, it is a tech-filled world, you can still find a human connection in some way.
You want to know how I took the hope, like you're saying?
Yeah.
It's granted, he's sending out this letter and like he's with the other character, but during that scene. Again, it's playing back to the color. It was dark, right? But while they're out in the building, it starts showing the city and how there's still lights in it, which I might be like reaching, okay? But that's how I take it. Where I'm just like, wow, like there's still something for him. You know what I mean?
There's a light at the
I
end of the tunnel.
loved that.
Yeah. And I'm not usually a big fan of like out of focus lights. I feel like it as far as like cinematography, it's kind of cheap. Like it feels like just kind of basic. However, the shots
it's a cop out
and seeing like him in the foreground and those lights like pretty much luminescing around his face. The way it looked, I was like, wow, that looks amazing. I don't know how they pulled that off. It looks so good.
You know what?
And then sound design towards the end, after she leans his head on his shoulder, you hear him give that exhale.
Yeah.
Did you guys hear that? You're right. Yeah. And I was just like, whoa. I was like, that sound design, I was like, that exhale added a lot to that moment. I was
Take
just
a deep breath.
Yeah, because it's like you have that perfect image. You see how this is, where it's hinting it could be going. We don't know. But on a sound level, having that exhale, I was just like, it's kind of like with Samantha earlier. Yeah. She picked up on that with him. You
exactly.
know? And it really
it's an affectation, as she put it.
Yeah, and it's him kind of feeling the opening up, you know, not really having those subtleties, you know, you're not hiding them. So yeah, I don't know. It was great.
There was one shot in particular that I would like to recognize.
Yeah.
Is when they're on the boat and like you were talking about how it's hazy, how the sun is like peeked behind the sail and it's like super foggy, and it like cuts to him shortly like at the front of the boat, like. But that scene, like where they're going and that the piano's playing in the background and it's just like bright but not bright. I loved what they did with that scene.
Yeah.
I was like, wow, that is gorgeous. I've not seen that before.
Yeah. It's like perfect natural lighting.
Exactly,
Almost.
yeah.
It's
beautiful.
Overall, I loved pretty much everything about this movie: the look, costumes, the set design, the sound, the music, the directing. It just everything was working for me on every level. I know for some people it could be challenging. I'm surprised. I could picture this being kind of an awkward theater experience. I feel like some people would just be like
I'm gonna go home.
You would hear laughing. You would hear But again, I think towards the end, it justifies like everything, and you really, your guard is let down, and you're like, okay, if I'm feeling this way about this relationship, then everything in the past is now justified.
Exactly.
You know? And I maybe for some people it might be hard for them to get there. But I don't know. I think this is probably one of the best breakup movies I've seen. It felt so real despite being so, polarizing and out there. But however, here we are 13 years later.
11.
and AI is becoming a thing, and that's kind of it's getting there. It's
becoming more advanced for sure.
Yeah, and I think this movie will end up being very factual. Probably another 20, 30 years down the line, you may start to hear about people, linking with AI. Because it's basically the same thing, like people finding their future husband or wife on a video game or something.
Yeah.
That happens. Yeah, that happens.
Online dating too is another one.
Yeah, it's like when that was the first time that happened. Yeah, it was polarizing, and you're like, wait, what? How does that happen? You know, seeing this, you think the same thing, but I don't know. I feel like eventually, where AI is gonna be that synonymous with our own existence that we're gonna be there,
Exactly.
Yeah.
Do you guys have any takes from it that you didn't like?
Wallied, do you have any?
I would say, I wouldn't really say it's like a criticism, but kind of. I guess I would say one thing I do wish the film did expand upon a little more is the ex-wife's character, because we do get that like one scene of her, and we get her through like the montages, but I did want at least like one or two more scenes with her just to see like her side of like the story almost.
I think personally, that I respect what you're saying. I don't think it was needed though. I think that at that point it becomes about their relationship and takes away from his and Samantha's. Even in the movie, you can tell Samantha's jealous and she's worried about him going to sign his papers because she has a body, she's very pretty. And I think that if they were to dive more into the relationship, it would be about their relationship and not Theodore and Samantha.
Interesting.
You get what I'm saying?
Okay.
That makes sense.
But I get what you're saying. Like, I think it would
Yeah.
be cool to see like what they were like and maybe what happened, and or if she is doing all right or something,
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
That would probably be the only thing, honestly. But I would just say that was like the one okay thing.
Yeah.
But other than that, no, I think this film is kind of nearly flawless,
Yeah,
honestly.
I feel like I don't know. I was expecting moments in it where it would go further, but I'm really glad it didn't. I don't know. I think the subtleties in this movie really worked for me compared to some other movies I've seen.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. Every actor in this movie felt real.
Yeah.
Like, even, I obviously I love Amy Adams. She's a great actress. But, she just felt so genuine.
Yeah, she
like
did.
her character and everything. And
That documentary.
the way she would talk, I was like, she feels real. I feel like I'm not watching Amy Adams, Or,
it feels like you're watching just people on the screen almost.
And same thing with Joaquin Phoenix. It's like I was expecting a moment where he would have like a full-on breakdown, go into like his normal Joaquin Phoenix type stuff.
Oh, yeah. Gotcha.
And he didn't have it. And I was just like, this movie really didn't need it. And
same thing with Chris Pratt, too. I was surprisingly not distracted by him,
Yeah,
and he added a lot to the film.
Yeah.
He really did. Like, actually, he wasn't like too much in it, but he played really heavy in the story.
Yeah.
I was shocked by it.
I want his mustache.
Like for your own, or you want to just like hang it up on your wall?
I just no, for my own.
I have one critique.
Anyways.
hear
I
it.
just have one. It's gonna knock off like 0.5 points for me.
Oh,
Actually,
dang.
it does.
Okay.
I didn't care for the little kid at all.
Wh-
Like the little alien kid.
Oh,
Oh.
yeah.
It annoyed the crap out of me. I'm not gonna
Yeah.
lie. I for a while was like, okay, I get it. Like, stop showing it, please. Like,
Yeah.
it's not
Spike Jones alien.
Spike Jones alien
I will
kid.
say everything seemed convincing in the movie, but I felt like him playing that video game didn't really feel real.
Yeah, I
was
didn't really
like,
care for that.
This feels a little too like fake.
Pull out the Atari, bro.
Yeah, I was just like, I don't know. I don't think we're like he was just like moving his
He's all-
hands and
It's PlayStation VR, man. What are you talking about?
You don't need controllers.
because it's like you have that. I don't know. You have that level of like holographics and stuff. Okay, well then why is Samantha still a pocket?
No, you're right. I never even
Yeah.
took it like that.
I was
You're
just
right.
like, okay, like they're
Also,
that
she
far in
could-
the future, but that doesn't work.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
That makes sense to me.
that was, I didn't really care for that. I felt like it felt a little too movie-ish. I was like, okay, we maybe took it a little too far. But it's like a 2-minute
Yeah,
sequence.
it's not gonna
so
like ruin the
yeah,
entire movie for
It
me.
didn't ruin it,
But
at
it
all.
did knock off like a little bit. Spike Jones was he annoyed the crap out of me. I furled.
Yeah.
But it's all right. What do you guys give out of 10?
I really love this movie. I was surprised again. I hadn't watched it until now. I remember back in the day, my sister wanted me to go see it with her, but I never did.
Probably good that you did it.
Yeah, not really a family movie.
Don't watch it with your parents, guys.
Yeah,
Kind of watch it maybe on your own.
seeing
actually.
seeing Wolf of Wall Street with my family was pretty awkward.
Stupid.
But I don't know. I really liked it. Everything I felt really worked for me in this movie. I like taking these grand concepts and using them to explain, these complex situations.
Yeah.
That to me is it's a very hard thing to do, and to make it work and make it believable is a challenge. And not only to make that work, but then have this whole grand story behind it is, I think, a feat on its own. So I guess I would say I'd be around a 9.5. Probably eventually, I feel like rewatching it, I'd push it up to a 10. Really enjoyed it.
Where's the 0.5 going?
I do feel like some stuff was like I said with the holographic stuff. And I feel like that wasn't really needed. You could have taken that out, and now that I was mentioning it, it calls into question like, okay, if that's so advanced, why is Samantha still like a retro pocket device?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess that would be my only complaint. And then I did see Wallied's point of, maybe they could have done something further with the relationship now that I'm thinking about it.
Yeah.
But then I do see Dylan's side of everything does work, and maybe it would have taken away.
I just feel like it ended for a reason. I didn't feel the need that we needed other stuff because it's not about them anymore.
Yeah.
Their story is over.
Yeah.
It's done.
And it really, I don't know, just using the whole relationships of AI and his ex-wife to really show like that's how relationships are. You grow from them, you change. You can take the best parts of each one and, use that as an example that you could find someone else, if you choose to focus on those negatives of, am I ever going to find someone else again? It's like, come on. You have to open yourself up to that. Like, you can't be thinking about what other people think.
Exactly.
Such a great message of the movie. So yeah, I'd probably be at a 9.5. But on future rewatches, I could see it going up to a 10.
Nice.
Wallied.
Yeah, timeless movie for sure. I feel like this is the definition of a film that you could either have released like 10 years ago, or you could have released like today or like 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Just an all around amazing film that I think is really just the definition of like just melancholy at its finest. And yeah, the acting is fantastic. Everyone gives a really top notch 10 out of 10 performance.
Yeah.
Really incredible like camera work and like set design, and again, phenomenal sound design and incredible music, especially Scarlett Johansson's performance, considering it's mostly just a voice performance. She does such a fantastic job. And that song, too, is also beautiful, just absolutely beautiful. I pray one day Spike Jonze comes back and releases another movie because I feel like, man, we need another movie from him because he really is just such an incredible filmmaker that I love always just watching things from him. So I'm gonna give this I'm gonna say 9.5 out of 10.
Okay.
Yeah, not my favorite of his. I'd probably still say Adaptation is my favorite, but yeah, 9.5 out of 10.
I respect that. I lied. I lied earlier when I said that it was knocking off points. It didn't. It annoyed me, but it's not enough to ruin the movie. I'm giving it a 10, man. I've talked enough about it.
Yeah.
I could talk about this movie for another 5 hours if I want to get into details. But, oh, man, this movie's... It's like perfect for me. Everything about it is perfect. I liked the way that you could see him going through stuff and moving past things, going right back deep into a relationship and it being hard and him learning from it and from his past mistakes and he's changing stuff and I loved it, man. And at the end of it, he went right back to where he was, but he has a different mindset and he understands that, hey, it's part of life. It's gonna happen.
That's what life is.
Yeah, it's gonna happen and it'll be all right.
Yeah.
So I loved it. I give it a 10.
Nice.
Yeah, really recommend watching it, everyone. Like, please check this movie out. I agree 100% with what you were saying. Like, this really does feel timeless. Could have came out like when I was watching it, and I realized I looked up after. I was like, oh, this was like over 10 years ago.
Yeah,
like,
it's
that
crazy.
blew my mind. I was just like,
you would have felt like
whoa.
it was like 3 years.
Yeah. But I love so much about this movie, and it's a shame it took me this long to see it. So please check it out. Thank you, Dylan, for recommending this
thanks,
movie.
Thank you guys for having me.
Yeah.
I enjoyed talking about it. I don't get to talk about it at all.
Yeah.
I get to talk to myself about it.
We'll have to have you on in the future.
I'd be down.
Is there anything else you would want to say before you head out?
I'm getting kicked out, so peace.
No,
I'm just
you
joking.
want anyone to follow you on Instagram or something for more reviews?
No.
Okay. No, that's fine. But yeah, thank you so much, Dylan, for coming on.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I had a really good time.
Discussion.
I enjoyed it, yeah.
And that was our little bonus episode in the middle of our Halloween stuff that we got going on. So we're going to have more episodes like that in the next coming weeks. We have a few more people we're going to have on. So thank you guys for listening. And I guess that's it.
All right. Thank you.
We'll see you guys on the next one.
Good day and good night, mates.